This is objectives in the Unit 1 part of the course. So you need to be able to describe the main types of business aims, and these are bullet pointed here, and we'll go into more detail about them. And I've put together actually another section of the course that I think sits well with this, and it's about how objectives are important and how they can be used to measure the success of a business. So objectives, key to, are just specific goals for a business to achieve by a specific point in time. So we will be looking at what makes an objective and going through SMART, S-M-A-R-T, I can spell SMART, how they need to be SMART. And objectives are really important because if you don't have objectives, it makes it very unlikely that you're going to achieve your overall aim. So objectives are a little bit more specific than an aim. An aim might be that you want to make profit, but objectives are sort of going into a little bit more detail, so maybe some elements of the how. So if you think about I want to make profit, you might think, right, I need to increase sales growth or turnover or revenue by 20% this year to be able to make that profit. So it gives a lot more kind of specific detail. So some of the key objectives that you might have would be making a profit. And profit is just revenue, your income from selling products minus the cost, the amount of money it takes to manufacture or create those goods or services. Another objective might be growth. Now, lots of students talk about growth, but you have to be quite specific. So it might be growth in terms of revenue. So remember, revenue is price times quantity, the amount you sell times the the amount you sell it for. Or it could just be volume, so actual physical products. You want to increase the amount you sell. Or it might be that you want to increase the number of stores that you have in different towns or cities or different countries around the world, or it might be that you want to increase the range of products that you have, so increase your product portfolio, product range. You may want to increase market share. So this diagram here, usually we represent market share as percentage, and so percentages really lend themselves to pie charts very well. So this is the percentage market share of social media at a certain point in time. And market share, it measures the percentage of a market that a business owns. So we can see there from this pie chart that Facebook accounts for 61% of all social media. You might see Google there. I think that's YouTube, because YouTube are owned by Google. So why is market share important? Now, I always go into a little bit more detail with market share because I think it's a very interesting objective that firms have. So market share, higher market share does indicate higher revenue that you're making, and higher revenue should contribute to higher profit. Now, you just have to be a bit cautious with this because I'm sure those students out there that are really good at maths can work out that actually you can have increasing market share and decreasing revenue. So if the market itself is getting smaller, you can actually have that happening. So usually, that's why I say usually, an increasing market share indicates higher revenues. But usually when you've got a higher market share, you can charge a higher price for the market, and customers tend to stay loyal because it's the number one company in the market, if you've got the highest market share, that is. And so they tend to trust that market leader a little bit more. You will have a recognised brand. High market share suggests that there are many customers using your product, or many more that recognise it, even if they don't use it. And again, that can build trust and loyalty. And it might mean that you have better negotiating power with your suppliers, so you can reduce the cost of your supplies maybe. Customer satisfaction might be another objective. You want your customers to be happy with the service. This means that they're more likely to return, and getting a customer to be loyal is actually cheaper than trying to attract new customers all the time, because you've got a lot of promotion and advertising costs involved in that. So it's a really cost-effective way of making sales. You may also be able to charge a higher price if people are very satisfied with the product, if it's good quality, and they might spread the word about your business and say it's really good. So you get a recognised brand, you get word of mouth advertising that's very cheap compared to other methods, especially TV advertising. Another objective, especially in the last few years, because of the tough economic climate, might be to survive. And we can see some startling statistics here. 1 in 10 businesses cease operating per year, and half of all new businesses established 3.5 years ago are no longer operating. So survival rates are not always great for businesses. And to survive, you need to break even, and break even just means that your revenue equals your costs. So you're not making a profit and you're not making a loss. There are other objectives that firms might have, especially if they're a social enterprise as well. They might not be so focused on profit, but even profit-making businesses have these ethical objectives. And one company in particular, Innocent, who started off making the smoothies, have some various objectives looking at things. But in case you didn't know what ethical meant, it is a subjective term, so it depends upon what who you ask, but it's all concerned with doing the right thing. So we might find that business has the aim of minimising the impact on the environment, so reducing pollution and those types of things. They might donate to charities. They might be committed to providing good working conditions for their employees, or fair trade, so making sure negotiations with suppliers are fair and giving them a fair price for their produce. But again, fair is a very subjective term, so that depends on how you define that. Now, there was something I want to show you. Yeah, so on Innocent Smoothies website, I'll just get this up. They have a really nice page. So if you go onto their website, my internet's running a little bit slowly at the moment, they have lots and lots of detail on the different things that they do. So you can click on these icons here and they give you a little bit more information. But they've got lots of nice stories about how they do it, and recycled packaging and all of those types of things, and what they engage in to make sure that their products are ethical. So I would have a look at different businesses and what they do. They usually publicise it on their websites. So when we're looking at measuring success and measuring whether a business is successful or not, we really want to make sure that they've got SMART objectives, so that they're specific, they're measurable. You can't measure success unless you've got something that's measurable, that they're agreed with every person in the organisation, so everybody's working towards the same goal. They're realistic, they're achievable, and they're time bound as well, so that there's a certain point at which you can say, right, the time period is elapsed now, and we're going to measure whether we're successful or not. So here's an example for businesses. They might have an aim of increasing profit, as I said before at the beginning of the presentation, but the objective has to be a lot more specific than that. So they might say that they want to increase profit by 5% by 2017. So it's very specific. The goal relates to profit. That's the thing that we're going to be measuring. We can measure whether you've increased it by 5% by looking at 2016's results and 2017, or whenever you started measuring it. Everyone in the business should be told that's the goal so they can work towards it. It's it depends on the business that you're looking at. It's quite a small percentage, so it sounds realistic without knowing what this business is. If it's a business that's been operating for a long time, that might actually be quite a large amount of profit for them to achieve, but also it's time bound there. You can achieve it by 2017. So you might have an example from your life, so you can read over those things, but it's always good to set yourself time bound specific goals. So how do we actually measure what would we actually look at? Because a good objective has to be measurable. So what would we measure? So growth, you know, we'd want to know, is revenue or maybe turnover increasing? If you're thinking about the number of stores you have the number of stores increased? Have the number of products increased? Have the volume of what you sold increased? If we're looking at measuring profit, is profit increasing? Has it increased? We can actually measure that as a monetary value. Survival, is the business breaking even this year? Are they covering their costs? Are they still in business? Market share, is that market share percentage increasing? So the value of their sales compared to the value of the total amount of sales in the market. Customer satisfaction, now this one would be a little bit more difficult to gather, but you'd probably have to do customer surveys and find out whether they're more positive, maybe do some focus groups and some market research. And social objectives, again, a little bit more subjective, but you could look at the amount of money that's given to charity or the amount of number of hours that employees spend contributing to charitable causes, but definitely not as easy to measure as revenue or profit. The business may even have a goal of decreasing costs, because there's two sides to increasing profit. One would be increasing revenue and the other side would be decreasing costs. So there could also be a goal of decreasing costs, and then you're looking at have costs decrease. So those are the objectives again, and there are lots of past paper questions based on these. They're usually quite short mark questions, you know, your 2, 3, 4 mark questions, but watch out for those because they're quite straightforward.